The cameras are rolling, the studio lights are blazing, and the audience is thrilled to see Hollywood royalty seated on stage. Jennifer Hudson flashes her award-winning smile, but tonight that smile won't save her, because in just a few seconds, one of the most respected actors alive is about to walk off her set. The energy shifts. The laughter fades, and every eye in the room locks onto Samuel L. Jackson, who rises from his chair with a look that stops the world. His voice is low, controlled, but furious. "You invited me here to talk, not to insult me." Jennifer leans forward, trying to keep the show alive, but the damage is already done. A gasp ripples through the audience. Security takes a nervous step closer. The producers behind the cameras start signaling. Panicked, confused, desperate, Samuel shakes his head, removes his microphone, and places it quietly on the chair. A simple gesture, but more powerful than any explosion in his movies. This isn't acting. This isn't scripted. This is real Hollywood tension. Raw, unfiltered, unedited. As Samuel turns to walk away, Jennifer calls out, her voice trembling, "Wait, Samuel, please." But he doesn't look back. The audience watches in shock, witnessing a moment that was never supposed to happen on live television. And tonight, the world will talk about only one thing. Why did Samuel L. Jackson walk off Jennifer Hudson's show? The truth starts now. The place was supposed to be warm, welcoming. It's a celebration of talent and success. Jennifer Hudson's Show. A stage built for uplifting moments, joyful conversations, and star-powered entertainment. That morning, everything looked perfect. The band rehearsed their cues. The audience filled the seats, buzzing with excitement, and producers whispered backstage about the headline guest, none other than Samuel L. Jackson. This wasn't just a regular interview, this was a moment networks dream of, a Hollywood icon, a living legend, a man whose presence commands respect before he even says a word. Jennifer had been preparing all week, cards printed, segments planned, laughs rehearsed. She wanted viral moments, clips that would explode across the internet, turning viewers into fans. But there's a fine line between going viral and going too far. The studio was small enough to feel intimate, but large enough to magnify every expression, every shift in tone. Cameras positioned like watchful eyes, ready to capture anything unexpected. The atmosphere, electrifying, unpredictable, one wrong move, and the world would see it instantly. As Samuel settled into his seat, the crowd erupted with applause. He smiled, confident, relaxed, ready for a respectful conversation. What he didn't know, what no one could predict, is that this carefully polished stage was about to become a battleground, a place where respect would be tested, where boundaries would be crossed, and where a single confrontation would define the entire show. At first, everything seemed perfect. Jennifer greeted Samuel with a bright smile, the kind you expect from a seasoned host. The audience cheered louder than ever, thrilled to see a Hollywood titan sitting comfortably on a daytime talk show couch. Compliments flowed, laughter echoed. It felt like a celebration. Jennifer praised his legendary career, his unforgettable roles, his decades of dominance in Hollywood. Samuel nodded politely, responding with the warmth and charisma that made him a global icon. It was the kind of interview people tune in for. Friendly, lighthearted, easy. He cracked a joke. The audience roared. She teased him about his iconic catchphrases. He played along like a pro. For a moment, it felt like the kind of TV magic every producer hopes to capture. Effortless charm, genuine connection. Two stars enjoying each other's company. But beneath the surface, something wasn't quite right. There were tiny flickers, small hints that Jennifer's enthusiasm wasn't entirely sincere. A comment phrased just a bit too sharply. A question that felt less like praise and more like a setup. Samuel noticed. The audience didn't. Not yet. Still, he kept smiling. because that's what professionals do. They rise above tension. They give grace before judgment. They assume the best until they can't anymore. The cameras kept rolling. The energy stayed high. But behind Samuel's calm composure was a quiet awareness, a feeling that this interview might not stay friendly for long. The storm hadn't arrived yet, but the winds were already changing. Then it happened. Jennifer leaned forward, her smile tightening, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The energy shifted, just slightly, enough for Samuel to notice. With a voice coated in casual curiosity, she asked a question that wasn't casual at all. "So tell us, what really happened on that last film set? Rumors say the crew didn't enjoy working with you. Were you being difficult again?" The audience froze. Producers stiffened behind the cameras. It wasn't just bold. It was personal. Samuel blinked, processing. He'd expected questions about his new movie, his iconic roles, maybe even a funny behind-the-scenes story. Not a public interrogation. There are questions designed for conversation. And then there are questions designed for confrontation. Jennifer didn't ask to understand. She asked to provoke. The crowd, confused, waited for Samuel's response. Would he laugh it off? Would he ignore the insult hidden inside the question? But Samuel L. Jackson isn't a man who tolerates disrespect wrapped in fake curiosity. He adjusted his posture. His smile dimmed. His tone sharpened, calm but edged with truth. "Difficult?" he repeated, eyebrows lifted. "Or professional? There's a difference." It was a warning, a first boundary drawn, but Jennifer didn't recognize it. Or worse, she ignored it. One question had shifted the entire interview. Warmth was fading. The tension was rising, and the first spark of conflict had just been lit, but Jennifer wasn't finished. If anything, Samuel's composed response seemed to fuel her. She leaned in again, that same forced smile glued onto her face, a smile that now looked more like a trap. "So, is it true you've been clashing with directors lately? Some say you think you're too important to take direction." There it was, sharper, more insulting, a direct hit on his professionalism. The audience reacted. Small murmurs, uncomfortable shifts in seats. This wasn't playful banter anymore. This was a subtle attack, disguised as journalism. Samuel looked at her, really looked at her. Not angry, not shouting, just stunned that she'd choose this route so publicly. He inhaled slowly, choosing his words like a master who has dealt with this nonsense far too many times. "If someone doesn't know how to communicate," he replied calmly, "that's not my problem to fix." A clean, controlled response. But Jennifer wasn't listening to the message. She was only watching the audience, chasing their reaction like a performer desperate for applause. And when she didn't get it, she pushed harder. She interrupted him, cut him off, raised her voice just enough for everyone to feel the shift. "Or maybe," she said with a hint of mockery, "you just don't like being told what to do?" The atmosphere snapped. Laughs didn't come. Gasps did. Samuel's eyes narrowed. Not in rage, in realization. This wasn't a conversation anymore. This was a setup, and he knew exactly where this was heading. Samuel shifted in his chair, not uncomfortably, but deliberately. The kind of movement that says I've had enough without needing a single word, Jennifer noticed, and instead of easing off, she doubled down. "You're known for being intense," she pressed, voice sharpened. "But maybe that intensity becomes a problem when the cameras stop rolling." There it was. The accusation laid bare. The room felt suddenly smaller. Samuel leaned forward, forearms resting on his knees. He wasn't dodging the moment. He was stepping into it. "You invited me here to talk about my work," he responded, tone cool and controlled. "So let's talk about my work, not these little stories you're fishing for." A few audience members clapped, instinctively taking his side. But Jennifer, That applause only irritated her. "Oh, come on, Samuel," she snapped, dropping the fake charm entirely. "If you can yell at people in movies, you can handle a simple question." Samuel's jaw tightened, not from anger, from restraint. "There's a difference," he said slowly, "between a question and an insult." A hushed silence fell. Producers stiffened behind the cameras. Everyone could feel the temperature rising, and it wasn't stopping. Jennifer crossed her arms, trying to hold on to control, but it was slipping. Fast. This was no longer just tension. This was confrontation. And both of them were fully in it now. Samuel L. Jackson had been patient, more patient than anyone, expected from a man famous for his explosive characters. He offered respect. He answered professionally. He tried, really tried, to keep things on track, but Jennifer wasn't finished. She leaned forward, eyes narrow, voice sharpened for the kill. "So tell me, Samuel, do people fear working with you? Do they think you're difficult?" The word difficult echoed through the studio like an accusation carved in stone. Samuel froze. In weakness, in calculation, was choosing his next move with the precision of a man who understands the weight of every word he speaks. He took a breath, a deep one, and then he sat back and pushed the microphone slightly away. That gesture said everything. The audience exchanged uneasy glances. They knew that. Look, the quiet before the storm. Jennifer didn't stop. "You can't walk away from this question. You owe viewers the truth." Samuel turned his head slowly, eyes locking onto hers, not with anger, but with disappointment so heavy it shook the room. "I don't owe anyone tolerance for disrespect," he said, voice steady and ice-cold. A few gasps escaped from the crowd. "That," he continued, "is the truth." He stood up, calmly, powerfully, and suddenly the entire energy of the studio shifted. This wasn't an interview anymore. This was Samuel L. Jackson drawing a line, and Jennifer Hudson had just crossed it. The moment Samuel L. Jackson pushed his chair back, the air in the studio changed. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a stunt. This was a breaking point. The cameras were never supposed to capture. Jennifer stood up too, panic flickering behind her professional smile. "Sit down, Samuel. We're not finished," she demanded, trying to sound in control, but her voice cracked just enough to expose the fear underneath. Samuel turned to her, slowly. Measured, composed, a storm contained by sheer will. "You finished the moment you stopped respecting me," he replied, each word heavy enough to shake the walls. The audience, silent at first, began whispering, then murmuring, then suddenly, she was out of line. He shouldn't have to take that. The crowd was turning, not just watching, choosing sides. Jennifer's frustration exploded. "You're really doing this? Walking out? On my show?" she snapped. A man in the front row shouted back, "Because you pushed him too far." More voices joined in, some angry, some defending Samuel, some yelling at Jennifer. Studio handlers rushed to the edges of the stage, unsure whether to intervene or let the drama unfold. Cameramen looked at each other. Do we keep rolling? Do we cut? What is happening? The spotlight now felt like a courtroom floodlight. An audience that once adored Jennifer Hudson now stared like a jury ready to deliver a verdict. Samuel stood tall, unfazed by the chaos around him. This wasn't just a disagreement. It was a reckoning. Live, unfiltered, unstoppable, and the whole world was about to see it. In the aftermath of that unforgettable walk-off, one truth echoed louder than any applause or any headline that would follow. Respect is not optional. Not in Hollywood, not on television, not in life. Samuel L. Jackson didn't storm off because he couldn't handle questions. He walked away because he refused to let someone strip away his dignity for the sake of entertainment. And in that moment, he showed millions of people watching exactly what self-worth looks like. This wasn't about ratings. This wasn't about ego. This was about a man setting a boundary and refusing to apologize for it. Jennifer Hudson learned the hard way that a platform doesn't give you permission to belittle someone. A talk show isn't a battlefield, and a guest isn't a target. Because here's the truth. Real power isn't in who holds the microphone. It's in who stands their ground. Samuel didn't yell. He didn't insult. He didn't break. He simply said, "Enough is enough." And then he walked out with more class than any scripted apology could ever fake. The world watched a live masterclass that day. Don't tolerate disrespect. Don't allow others to rewrite your character, and never, ever let someone turn your silence into acceptance. Sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is walk away. And Samuel L. Jackson showed everyone exactly how that's done. What happened that day wasn't just a TV meltdown. It was a reminder, a wake-up call, something we all need to think about. Because if a legend like Samuel L. Jackson can be disrespected on live television, what does that say about the way everyday people are treated when no cameras are rolling? So now the question becomes not just what happened, but what do you think about what happened? Was Samuel right to walk away? Did Jennifer cross a line? Should a host ever attack a guest to make good television? Tell us in the comments. Whose side are you on? Samuel's stand for dignity, or Jennifer's claim of just doing her job? And if you've ever been in a situation where someone tried to tear you down, embarrass you, or make you feel small for their own benefit, then you already understand why that studio erupted the moment Samuel stood up. So hit that like button if you believe in respect professionalism, standing up for yourself, and never letting anyone treat you like less than you are. Share this video so more people can see what really unfolded. Because this shouldn't just be a moment we watch. It should be a lesson we remember. Samuel L. Jackson didn't just walk off a stage. He walked into a moment that will be talked about for years. Now it's your turn to talk. Drop your thoughts below. Let your voice be part of the conversation. This isn't just a story. This is a movement.